In 1893, journalist Theodor Herzl, a Jew from birth, though faithfully devoted to German culture, proposed his own solution to the Jewish dilemma. He would call upon the Pope in the name of racial unity to baptize all the Jews of Austria at a special ceremony to take place in St. Stephen's Church in Vienna. And thus he writes in his diary, "About 2 years ago I sought to solve the Jewish dilemma, at least in Austria, with the help of the Catholic Church. I tried at first to secure the aid of the Austrian clergy and to gain an audience with the Pope in order to tell him, aid us against the anti-Semitism, and I'll start a colossal movement of Jews who will convert freely and proudly to Christianity." Herzl also describes in great detail the planned mass conversion. The conversion shall take place by the light of day, on Sunday at noon in St. Stephen's Cathedral, with a festive parade and to the sound of church bells, not in secret as Jews have been accustomed until now, but with glory. The fact that Jewish leaders, in fulfillment of their Judaism, will guide the folk up to the cathedral gates, shall give much validity to the assembly. We, the steadfast, are the last generation clinging to our forefathers' faith. Only we wish to make our children Christian before they reach the age of discretion, when the abandonment of one's religion seems cowardly. Some years later, Herzl would write in his diary, "Rabbi Gelbels visited me and asked, 'It is true that I never circumcised my son, Hans?' I told him, 'That's a family matter.' He added with closed eyes, 'No, it's a national issue. True, many Jews neglect to circumcise their sons, but they do not pretend to bring the redemption unto Israel. Christian priests are of the highest stature because they crave not wealth. Simple Christians are superior to the Jewish ministers." This attitude effectively reveals the anti-Semitic side of Herzl's ideology. Elemental to such thought are anti-Semitic ideas depicting Jews as villains on one hand and Gentiles on the other, as the epitome of purity and perfection. So he wrote, example, in an article in the Deutsche Zeitung, "The wealthy Jews control the world. In their hand lies the fate of governments and nations. They set governments one against the other, and by their decree governments make peace. When the wealthy Jews play, the nations and the rulers dance. One way or the other, they get rich." Indeed, anti-Semitism, a powerful and deep-rooted strength of man's subconscious, will not harm the Jews. I find that it helps build the Jewish character. Group edification by the masses. An education good for bringing about its assimilation. The education is achieved only through troubles. The Jews will adapt. An excellent idea enters my mind: to attract outright anti-Semites and make them destroyers of Jewish wealth. I consider myself an average modern Jew, and I'm not shaken by formal conversion to Christianity. I give praise for every Jewish parent that decides to convert to Christianity. I have a son and would sooner convert today to Christianity than tomorrow, so that he would start being a Christian as soon as possible, and to spare him the injuries and discrimination which I suffered, and will continue to suffer because I am a Jew. Of course, it must make sure to get rid of certain negative Jewish traits such as the Yiddish language, commandments, and customs, and most importantly, Jewish parasitism. Herzl's state is in fact completely European. And so wrote editorialist Ham Hassas on Zionist leadership in Haaretz Musai in 1943. Zionism and Judaism are not the same thing, but two things distinct from one another. No doubt, two things which contradict one another. When one cannot be a Jew, he becomes a Zionist. Zionism emerges from Judaism's ruins, from the nation's hour of weariness, one thing's for sure. Zionism is not a continuity, not a cure for the wound. It uproots and destroys. On the contrary, it distracts the nation, defies it, contradicts its will and its spirit, undermines it and uproots it and abandons it for another route, towards a goal distant and distinct. all alone with a handful of men at his helm, the seat of a foreign nation, please note. Neither new nor renewed, but different. Anyone thinking otherwise is either mistaken or fooling himself. Bringing Herzl's coffin for burial in the land. None of the passages quoted above would have been published if not for the insistence of Dr. Raphael Saul Landau, who was Herzl's head secretary and editor of his personal diary. He insisted that all of Herzl's notes be published, contrary to the wish of the publishers to censure the diary. Like Mendelssohn of the Enlightenment movement period, who promoted the saying, "Be a Jew at home and a man when you go out." Herzl wrote in his diary, "Nordau said that before founding the Jewish state, we must see to it that the Jews of East Europe burn the lice out of their clothing and the contagion out of their bodies." Joseph Haim Brenner, a writer and thinker of the Zionist leadership, whose writing influenced the proletariats of the land of Israel more than any other writer, wrote in 1919, A Holocaust from Heaven. Our national character has been at fault since time immemorial. We have never been a creative people. We've always lived lives of gypsies and dogs. What do you expect from the anti-Semites? Why do you refuse to understand the self-explanatory? To look at the hatefulness and repulsion of Israel? The Jews are gypsies, contagion, slop, and decay, a spoiled egg. Not human, wounded dogs. Though the European nations strangled us mercilessly, as one would strangle an abominable creature, they are deserving of respect. We are not human at all. Look, saliva. All our spiritual treasures are but a dead mosquito. Will not familiar faces of all the ghettos now haunt our streets? Scum of mankind. Steve Jabotinsky, founder of the revisionist movement, wrote in Haaretz in 1990, "In the national home, we'll declare those Jews who failed to rid themselves of the rust of exile and refuse to shave their beards in sidewalks, second-class citizens. We will not give them the right to vote." David Ben-Gurion, founder of the state and many years its leader. The dying exiles being rounded up in Israel are not yet tantamount to a nation, but to subhuman riffraff with no language, no education, no roots. Transforming humanoid raw material into a cultural nation is no easy task. The land of Israel is in need of selective immigration. Zionism is not a philanthropy. Here we need Jews of the superior type who will develop the national home. Ishak Greenbaum, the Zionist leader in charge of the rescue efforts, and David Ben-Gurion's Minister of Interior declared, "When they asked me, can you not use Keren HaYesod funds to rescue Jews in diaspora? I said no, and I repeat no. It is incumbent that we withstand this wave, which is pushing the Zionist agenda into second rank." When offered two proposals, the rescue of multitudes of Jews in Europe or the redemption in Israel, I choose without one moment of hesitation the redemption in Israel. Preoccupation with the massacre lessens our perseverance in augmenting domestic Hebrew strength. Even if today we could buy food rations with Keren HaYesod funds to send via Lisbon, we would not do it by any means. No and double no. Zionism supersedes all. This must be reiterated every time a great Holocaust distracts us from our war for Zion. The war of our redemption neither derives directly from nor integrates directly with diaspora aid efforts. From the words of Usikskin, Zionist movement leader, director of the Kayamet Israel in the 1920s, how vast is the difference between the casualties of the diaspora and the casualties of this land? Those who fell in scattered lands are casualties of a dying folk. Their deaths were pointless, just as their lives were pointless. Not so are the casualties that fell in our land. We regard them with pride. From the words of Chaim Weizmann, Zionist movement leader and first president of the State of Israel, 1937. The hope of 6 million Jews is focused on rising up from the depths of tragedy. I wish to save 2 million Jews. The elderly will perish and await their final destiny. They are economically and ethnically subhuman. In a cruel world, only the young will remain. The elderly will just have to grin and bear it. A defensive rampart, here are we against rabbis and the elderly. In the words of David Ben-Gurion, if I should be able to save all the children of Germany via transport to England, and merely half of them via transport to the land of Israel, I would choose the latter. Call me an anti-Semite, but I must say this. We are choking with shame over what's going on in Germany, Poland, and America, that Jews haven't the courage to fight. We don't belong to that Jewish nation. We rebel against such a Jewish nation. We don't want to be Jews of that kind. A secret 5-page memorandum was circulated, which had been written by Olfinri Hertingles, first director of the Ministry of the Interior of the State of Israel. The memorandum was classified secret to be seen and handled only by Zionists, not for submission to the non-Zionist factions in the rescue efforts. Among other things, it stated in European war zones in Germany and in occupied and allied lands, over 7 million Jews are expected to be murdered. Thus, the rescue committee's efforts will inevitably be limited to a small scale. Example, saving individuals and small groups only. We ought at the very least to benefit politically. MPEI, Miflet Pole Eretz Israel of then, that way only a few hundred people would be saved, and not necessarily the ones we have an interest in. Can we allow these modest efforts to be 100% philanthropic? Example, not to be distinguished of the quality of the individuals aided. Example, to aid anyone in need of help. Shouldn't we give this operation a nationalist Zionist character and try to save first and foremost those who will be of use of the land in Israel and Judaism? I realize it's somewhat cruel to put it this way, but to my chagrin, we have to say that if we can save only 10,000 people, yet there are 50,000 that need to be saved to build the land and revive the nation. And on the other hand, there are 1 million Jews that would be a burden to us, who at best would be an indifferent element. We must act with restraint, and to save the 10,000 we're able from out of the 50,000, despite the complaints and the pleas of the millions. The immigration of adults from Tehran is another example. Aside from pioneers and Zionists, businessmen, multitudes of people are arriving that have no connection to Zionism, people that are filled with utter national demoralization. Therefore, we have no choice but to refrain from rescuing the harmful element. Refrain whenever possible from bringing non-Zionist elements to the land of Israel. If this entire operation must necessarily be conducted from a Zionist viewpoint, the joint efforts with Aguda Israel and even with the revisionists are not only fruitless, but on the contrary, are extremely damaging. From the Schomer's Guide, December 1956, How to Deal with Religious Youngsters. Among our youngsters, we're encountering significant numbers that are religious, especially in the guided youth in the immigrant transit camps. Obviously, our goal is to make them aware that their faith in God is illogical and unreasonable, since religion is in the fruit of reactionist dictatorships and has no raison d'etre among those who fight for the progressive realm. In short, all this stage counselors should use patience and try to belittle religiosity as a socially disturbing factor in the movement. After briefing a youngster in a way which does not directly attack religion but undermines it, the youngster will independently come to the conclusion that there is no God and will abandon his religious faith. The Schomer's Guide to Schomer Education, printed by Schomer's Union. If I should be able to save all the children of Germany via transport to England, and merely half of them via transport to the land of Israel, I would choose the latter. I consider myself an average modern Jew, and not shaken by formal conversions to Christianity. I give praise for every Jewish parent that decides to convert to Christianity. I have a son who would sooner convert today to Christianity than tomorrow, so that he would start being a Christian as soon as possible, and to spare him the injuries and discrimination which I have suffered, and will continue to suffer because I am a Jew. In the national home will declare those Jews who failed to rid themselves of the rust of exile, and refuse to shave off their beards and sidelock, second-class citizens. We will not give them the right to vote. Of Zionism, David Ben-Gurion, Zev Jablonski, Benjamin Zev Herzl, here in the land of Israel, thank you very much, and we'll win. If I should be able to save all the children of Germany via transport to England, and merely half of them via transport to the land of Israel, I would choose the latter. I consider myself an average modern Jew, and not shaken by formal conversions to Christianity. I give praise for every Jewish parent that decides to convert to Christianity. I have a son who would sooner convert today to Christianity than tomorrow, so that he would start being a Christian as soon as possible, and to spare him the injuries and discrimination which I have suffered, and will continue to suffer because I am a Jew. In the national home will declare those Jews who failed to rid themselves of the rust of exile, and refuse to shave off their beards and sidelock, second-class citizens. We will not give them the right to vote.
Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shit tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today. I will never be the same. Cause that's what it takes. Slow